Hello there, welcome to another episode of World of Tanks with Ungainly Titan. We're here on Malinovka and I'm on the T-37, Tier 6 American light tank, in a Tier 9 battle. This battle is, it's a few weeks old now actually. It was taken during when I took a break basically from the Conway grind, and I decided to play light tanks, the AMX Chaffee and the T-37 for a few games, just to break it up a bit. And I had a good few games, pretty fun, but this is probably one of the best games that I've had in a light tank at this kind of tier. Certainly a big improvement over the early days when I played it. The thing about light tanks at this tier is that you can't really be that effective directly. Your armour and hit points pool isn't all that good, and it won't hold up well in direct confrontation with tier 9 tanks. So I'm going to park myself in this bush here, which is enabled in part because the other light tank there to my right has gone up into that spot there at D6, which is a very good active scouting spot. That means that enemy light tanks won't come down along the lake at the other side across the way from me. Enemy light tanks in those locations have a very good chance of detecting me even here in this bush. And I suppose also the fact that I have a fairly high skilled crew in this tank enables me to take this fairly aggressive scouting position. I've tried it on other tanks, sometimes with less trained up crews, and it's not as viable a position. The other thing I find difficult, of course, in scouting is the resistance to fire, resisting the urge to shoot enemy tanks that have become visible. This is especially the case in the early part of the game, where you will detect quite a lot of tanks, and you might necessarily get much spotting damage because your allies aren't actually in a position to fire on them. It is important actually the scout tanks detect quite a few enemies early in the game, preferably without being noticed themselves, because this gives your team a time to react to the enemy's deployment. I definitely think that scouting is the biggest learning curve. It's something that's not very well explained in-game. And it was something I certainly didn't understand. Now I play it, it's coming up to 3 years actually now since I started playing this game, and thinking back in it, the first year was pretty awful really. I was a terrible player. I was having great fun, I really enjoyed it, but I was really bad and didn't realise how bad I was. Certainly I was 6,000 games in before I realised that I needed to work on my gameplay. Now I'm getting worried about that T-49, so I pull back out of the bush, so that if I shoot at him, he won't spot me. However, by pulling back out of the bush, I actually get spotted, quite possibly by the T-49, or maybe the T-37 up at the church, or possibly even the AT-15, all of which are pretty good view ranges. Now, I get hit there, and I'm pretty sure that wasn't actually meant for me. That was probably meant for the tank destroyer below here. However, I take the hit, and it removes quite a lot of my health. So I wait a while for people to kind of forget about me, and then I try and make my way back up, because I'm not going to spot anything from back here. I need to be in a forward location. I know I can get up into that bush safely enough. I just need to, like I said, not shoot at anyone. So we park ourselves again, and we just maintain fire discipline this time. No matter how much, like I said, the temptation is. So now we're starting to pick up some more spotting damage, because, like I said, our ally is now in a position to actually take advantage of the stuff that I'm spotting. So yeah, I went up the American light tank line in the early days when the tanks like the Chaffee at Tier 5 saw Tier 10 games, and I had a horrifically awful time. You'd drive along, you'd pop over a ridgeline and you'd be shot by 5 or 6 tanks that were invisible to you, because I didn't have any skills in the crew. And I might not have had optics. I'm not sure whether I had equipment on those tanks either, because one of the disadvantages when you're trying to grind everything, and when you, as soon as you complete or elite a tank, you buy another one, is that you never have enough silver, and you never frequently then don't equip tanks. And equipment is actually quite important. If you're going out scouting, I think binoculars and camo is probably the best combo for passive scouting. On the other hand, if you tend to take a more active role, then camo is probably not used because you're on moving all the time, and coated optics are probably a better option. So we're pulling ahead here, and my spotting damage is up to about 8 ribbons now. The other thing then is when to leave your spot is the other kind of big strategic question when you're doing scouting, because at some point the enemy numbers thin down and it's time to sort of move on and get further spotting. It's also the same thing with when to actually start using the gun. A lot depends on the map and on the opportunities. Sometimes, you know, in the late game, you can be actually quite effective with the gun because the light tanks have pretty effective guns. They just don't do huge amounts of damage, and they're down to the penetration for face-to-face fighting usually, but they can penetrate the rear and sides of enemy tanks. So you tend to try and fire from cover, or just drive by while they're engaged with somebody else, pop out, take your shot, be gone before they react to your presence. So I chanced the shot there, because at this point the enemy numbers have thinned down and the chances of somebody spotting me are a lot less. It's also now probably reaching the point where I should be thinking about moving into a further location to see where I can spot more tanks. There's 2 of them regularly popping up over there in the middle of the field, and my own scouts and the guys coming down the hill have basically cleared that area to the north, to the northeast, where I would be most likely to be spotted from. So if I stay down here, I won't be spotted from across the field. So we poke up fairly carefully. I want to see if I can get some eyes on that T-32 that's in there in the low ground as well. Looks like I managed to get eyes on that T-10. Now, could possibly have gone for a tracking shot, but it looks pretty marginal. That's a little bit too far forward, I think. But the guys coming down the hill actually have much more direct line of fire onto them. So now I'm up to 15 ribbons. So like I said, my patience has been rewarded. So I think maybe I could drive up and put a shot into the rear of that T-32 while he's been busily fighting off 3 tanks in front of him. However, I don't get there in time, and he's taken out before I arrive. So there's only 2 remaining tanks, and they're both to the west of me, so we get into the low ground here at the back of the map. I'm having difficulty with my internet connection, as you can see the tank jerking around a little bit there. And now there's only 1 tank left. So I'm pushing over. He's been spotted, but not by me, but he has spotted me now. So hopefully he doesn't turn and I get down to the low ground again. So now it's a question of being very careful, because I don't want to be hit by him. He could probably one-shot me. And I'm not likely to put anything through his frontal armor, but I could act as a distraction. And as soon as he spots me, he actually turns in my direction and puts a shot my way, which fails to connect, fortunately. So I back down, wait for 6 cents to go away again. Or at least wait for him to be engaged with other people. But he's taken out before I can do anything effective. However, that's just as well. I've done pretty well in this game. 15 assisted damage ribbons. So we look at 3,500 experience, which is not bad for a tier 6 in a tier 9 game. Second class mastery. I did 245 damage on my own, but the real kicker was 4,506 assisted damage. No matter how aggressive I was going to be at a tier 9 game with a tier 6 tank, there was no way I was going to do 4,500 points of damage. So that spotting was well worth it for my team. Because if I wasn't doing that spotting, if I wasn't in that location, they wouldn't have been able to dish out that damage early in the game. I would have suffered more doing it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you again soon.